The Random Jottings of Donald J. from Nelson in Pendle. Once upon a time in Nelson, Lancashire, there lived a man named George Faucett Pitts Abbott. Born on September 18, 1897, George had a humble upbringing and received his education at Whitefield School. He worked in a textile factory when the outbreak of the First World War changed the course of his life. In August 1916, he enlisted in the Royal Naval Reserve, specifically the Trawler Section. It was during the war that George's courage and bravery came to the forefront. On December 14, 1917, his name appeared in the Gazette, recognizing his heroic actions on September 14, 1917. George, along with Nicholas Rath and Richard Knoulton, had demonstrated exceptional gallantry in saving lives. The incident involved a seaplane that had collided with a Poulsen mast, becoming wedged in it. The pilot, acting flight commander E.A. de Ville, was rendered unconscious and thrown out of his seat onto one of the wings. Without hesitation, George, Nicholas, and Richard sprang into action. Scaling the mast, the three men climbed a staggering 100 feet until they reached the seaplane. Nicholas utilized the bosun's chair, which moved on the inside of the mast, to reach the location where the seaplane was fixed, over 300 feet from the ground. He climbed out onto the plane and held onto the pilot until George and Richard arrived. Together, they passed the masthead gantline to Nicholas. With the assistance of George and Richard, Nicholas secured the pilot with the gantline and lifted him from the plane to the inside of the mast. Carefully and bravely, they lowered the unconscious pilot to the ground, fully aware of the precarious and damaged condition of the mast. One of the three supports was fractured, and the mast or the seaplane could have collapsed at any moment. In recognition of their selfless acts, George Faucett Pitts Abbott, Nicholas Rath, and Richard Knoulton were awarded the Albert Medal. George was presented with his medal by the King himself at Buckingham Palace on February 16, 1918. Later on, the Albert Medal was exchanged for the George Cross, a higher honor. After the war, George moved to Coventry, where he worked in a munitions factory during the Second World War. In 1946, he married Alice Emily Harris, and together they had a daughter. Seeking new opportunities, George ran a fish and chip shop in Northfleet, Kent, before eventually returning to his hometown of Nelson in 1961. There, he ran a grocery shop, embracing a quieter life. Sadly, George Faucett Pitts Abbott passed away on June 10, 1977, in Higham, Lancashire, at the age of 79. Throughout his life, he exemplified courage, bravery, and selflessness, leaving a lasting legacy of heroism that would be remembered for generations to come. His name would forever be etched in history as a true British hero. By Donald J.